AM 1220, KHTS, your hometown station. This is Dr. Proctor, an opportunity we take a couple of times a month here at AM 1220 KHTS, the first and third Thursday of every month, to look over the shoulders of doctors and the medical community and certainly medical support staff to find out what is happening as we are approaching what's being called the silver tsunami. We have an aging population that is growing. We have hospitals and doctors who are impacted, certainly as people have more and more affordable health care. And I feel that one of the best things we can do for one another is become our own best health advocates. There are times we turn to the internet, which can be a very scary landscape and often not true. And the opportunity to actually sit with the medical community and talk about what is happening in the world of medicine is going to help us become our best advocates, not just for ourselves, but for our loved ones and others that we care about. With me today from the Roxbury Institute, I have Dr. Michael Price, who's a regenerative orthopedic surgeon. The office is located on Roxbury Drive in Beverly Hills. You can look them up at theroxburyinstitute.com to learn more. And Michael M. Price, MD, is double board certified in orthopedic surgery and regenerative medicine. Okay, hello and welcome to Dr. Proctor, Dr. Price.
T, thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm reading, you have a book called STEMS, The Growing Revolution, Michael M. Price, MD. And as I'm reading the back of it, you graduated high school at the age of 16. You were in a hurry and went on to graduate with honors from both college and medical school at Georgia Tech and the Medical College of Georgia, respectively. But to graduate at 16, I have to ask the question, was it just a burning desire and curiosity of medicine that led you at a very early age, where a lot of kids are pretty much trying to decide what sneakers they want to wear at graduation? You were done and off and running.
Yes, in fact, that's true. I really, in high school, my main interest was medicine, mathematics, biotechnology. So all I wanted to do was work as fast as I could and get out of school as quick as I could so I could move on. Initially, I got into the field of biotechnology at Georgia Tech in training, moved on to some additional work in medical school, then a residency for orthopedic surgery. And then just last year, the field of regenerative medicine became an official board certification. In fact, the American Board of Regenerative Medicine began last year to try to organize and get a handle on a lot of the false claims that were being made about stem cells do this and stem cells do that.
Yeah, it had a great publicist, whoever was doing the information on stem cell. You could not open up a paper or a magazine or go on the internet without seeing some pretty wild claims.
For sure. People were claiming they could heal everything from multiple sclerosis to grow new ears. And yes, that may work in a laboratory with animals or in petri dishes, but it just doesn't happen for humans yet. There are some things that do happen and we can use, and a lot that's being claimed that we can't yet. So the field of regenerative medicine teaches everybody what you can and can't say, what we can and can't do. So being board certified in that gives us the ability to now know what we can say and do.
I'm a great fan of that. I do not like snake oil where, there are the claims. For me, I have to see the scientific evidence. I am a very, I'm a pretty rigid, I'm a believer in what can and can't be done in the human body, because I think we're amazing little pink planets. Strip the skin away and it's phenomenal what we are capable of. But I do worry when I don't see the scientific evidence backing it up. At what point, because again, back in the heyday when it was first being talked about, it was the holy grail of medicine, and everybody was saying this is going to fix, as you say, everything from the hangnail to getting a new kidney. And with the research, you came in very, very early on being interested in it. At what point did you, as really a student of what was taking place, did you see the evidence and say, this is a really great thing and I see the applications?
Well, initially I started to get extremely interested in applying it to patients when I worked for Emory University as an assistant professor in the early 2000s. they let us take over some of the prosthetics research. So we worked very closely with the VA and a former U.S. Senator who doesn't have an arm or both legs, Max Cleland. So he was very involved, gave us a lot of leeway into trying to make prostheses that would attach to some of the soldiers' legs who had been, quite frankly, blown off. And if you've ever seen someone with a prosthetic, it works well if there's a long stump there and you can put the prosthetic over the stump. But if they don't have much there, what we did was work on trying to screw the prostheses into the bone and by certain methods try to make the cells envelop the prosthesis and grow into it. So that was the earliest exposure I had to really good stem cell research. I'll give you, and your concerns are correct, there's a lot of false claims made. The only true stem cells are the cells that occur right when the sperm fertilizes the egg, because those cells can create anything in the body, and in fact do. They go on to form a living, breathing human being. But you can't take those same cells and put them in a painful knee to try to relieve pain or try to infuse them into a vein to try to cure multiple sclerosis, because you don't know what those cells are going to turn into.
Right. There's a process and things happen and you can't control that.
Right. You may get a tooth growing inside a knee, or you may get liver tissue growing in the blood. So there's extreme danger in not only performing those things, but making false claims and making people believe that you can help them and you may hurt them. So the current thinking is that you use more of the term cellular therapy, which means, the word stem cells is a little bit,
it's a bit of a blanket term and misleading.
It is. So what you want to do is you want to go to where tissues are damaged and try to find what's the closest tissue that we can use to make this one better.
How do we replicate what we really want?
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of what we do down at the Roxbury Institute is, let's say you have a bad knee. It's arthritic. Well, arthritis in knees, it gets really dry and crunchy, and you can even feel it crackling when you're moving.
You can hear it. Oh, yes. I've heard it on other people.
Right, and it's painful. So what in the body could we use that's kind of slick, slimy, full of healthy anti-inflammatory tissue to put in there? Well, it's fat.
Oh.
So we started basically doing liposuction, taking fat, adhering to the FDA standards of just very gently cleansing it, not changing the physical makeup, and then injecting it into painful joints with certain techniques that we use. And voila, the joint starts feeling better.
And it responds to that. And does it? And now, well, how does that first of all, I'm very curious. I've already had the opportunity to talk with your wife about something like this, because anytime we talk to someone about knee surgery, joint surgery, hip surgery, and the long process of recovery, if someone gets a hip replaced, and when you're working with something like an arthritic knee, and for a lot of people, there for years there wasn't a tremendous amount you could do for that. Is that correct?
That is correct. You're right.
And so now with something like this, again, we're talking with Dr. Michael Price, who is here to discuss a bit about. He's from the Roxbury Institute, which again is located down in Beverly Hills, the roxburyinstitute.com if you'd like to learn more. He's a regenerative orthopedic surgeon. And when someone had an arthritic knee, and this is one of the first things to go in the car when you're aging, maybe your eyesight, maybe your hearing, it's all part and parcel that expected that things will go. Knees seem to be the number one complaint I hear from a lot of the aging population, whether that's use and overuse or early athletics in life, maybe carrying more weight than you should. Honestly, even 10 pounds. If you throw a 10-pound sack of potatoes on one shoulder, it has its issues with the joints. You put 2 10-pound sacks of potatoes, one on each shoulder, and you start to feel it in your spine. You start to feel it in your knees. So knees, for the most part, it seems to be very much across the board that people have issues. What was the way as an orthopedic surgeon prior to what you're doing now? How would you treat that?
Well, typically you would start off with a cortisone shot. But cortisone is a steroid, and yes, it can calm it down for a while, but it also has degenerative effects. So you have to be very, very careful when you use that and how many times. And the reality is I don't really like to use it that much anymore.
Because it's a lot of bad that comes with the good.
Yeah, just to show you how medicine's changed even in the last 20 years or so. So we use it very sparingly. I'd rather use someone's own body.
That makes a lot of sense.
To
but
treat
back in the
themselves.
day, that wasn't the way. And then after cortisone shots, what was the next line of defense as a doctor before you were able to do what you do now? What would be the next case? You have a patient, they've done that now they have the good and the bad from the cortisone shots. What would be the next line of defense?
Well, if it's an aging patient and they're failing cortisone, then we would try some gel shots for the knee, and those have some level of success. But that gel that you put in the knee, it's gone within a few days, so the effects may or may not last. The next thing you would do is go replace the knee. And
that is a terribly invasive procedure.
Incredibly
the recovery
invasive,
time
yes.
is very, very difficult. And over the years, I've met patients who would do one knee at a time. I've met some of them have gone in and have been real cowboys. I'm doing two knees at once. Like, what? That's crazy talk. But I saw them do it. I've seen athletes do that. And I've watched the recovery process and trying to get the knees to immediately after surgery get to where the flexibility where you want to bend it to a certain degree. And it's a long and torturous recovery after they do that and hopefully have a good result. So over the years, that changes. And you, again, as a regenerative medicine physician, you start to see the changes. Now a patient comes to you and they say, Doc, I've got these, they maybe don't say Doc, I would say Doc, I have these knees that I'm having some issues. Now what do you do? If they come to the Roxbury Institute, what would be the first line of defense?
Well, if someone comes to the Roxbury Institute and I see them for a painful knee, for example, if I see there's some degenerative findings or pain there, I talk to them about, hey, if you're healthy and you're not taking blood thinners or any other major medical problems, let's use your own fat. It's slick. It's slimy, if you will, and the fat cells are incredibly nutritious and very anti-inflammatory.
I've never thought of my fat cells as being something good, and I've just now had to take a new look at that. Now, okay, I do have to ask the obvious question. I'm a middle-aged woman. You're going to take my fat. Do I get a double bonus from this? Are we going to trim a little and then use the fat? Or are you just going in and it's all for medical reasons?
Well, that's a great question.
Because I'm sure you've heard this before.
For sure. Initially, when we were doing the procedure, we would take a lot of fat. You'd have to have a lot of fat to create what we needed for the knee.
I'm golden. I'm good. All right.
But now it's very minimal.
Darn it.
You just do the procedure under a local anesthesia. Talk to the patient while you're doing the liposuction.
No.
Take it out.
You can be awake for this?
Yeah, you're definitely awake for it.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking about what you did yesterday or last night while we're doing the liposuction. We take it out. We spin it down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, clean it. Sterilely prep the knee and inject it, and typically you're feeling improvement within 10 or 15 minutes.
And as I was saying earlier, I had the good fortune to meet your wife and speak to her about it, and she made the comment that she did the treatment and was back to normal.
Right.
And I can't imagine, because I know people even who've had the cortisone shots, and it can be painful, and just the shot itself can be, you're achy and a little uncomfortable. But the idea that you can give someone relief almost right away.
Yeah, and the idea is let's decrease the pain. So it doesn't grow new cartilage. It doesn't do any of these crazy claims that people would. But what you're doing is we're taking one part of the body that you probably don't want to begin with.
Done with that. Move it somewhere else.
Using it in the knee.
Yeah. Well, now it doesn't live up to some of the crazy claims, but it's sort of like the body's own immunotherapy, where you're taking your own system to go in and help fight for something that's debilitating and degenerative. It's quite the opposite, of course. That's why it's regenerative medicine.
That's correct.
Now, in addition to knees, if you're a dancer or a runner and you've got the bad hips, is it something you can do in the hip also, or
absolutely?
You can bring someone in and it's a similar story, similar setup, centrifuge their own fat, clean it, re-inject it, and then what is the effect of that, and what's the longevity as a rule? Because where the cortisone wears off, you keep doing it until it's like a Band-Aid. How long does something like the regenerative therapy work for the knees or hips?
Well, once you inject the fat in the joint, usually you get your maximum benefit around 6 or 8 weeks, and then it plateaus. Typically, you'll get 1 to 2 years of relief from it. You can redo it in 2 or 3 years if you need to, but we've had some people who've done it in other clinics that they just don't come back. You don't hear from them because they're doing okay.
They're good. They're fine.
Right. Now,
they're off playing golf in another country. Why would they come back to you?
Right. And interestingly, the founder of the Roxbury Institute, Dr. David Amron, he's a lipedema specialist. So his specialty was, people who look like they weighed 160 pounds from the waist up, but from the waist down they look 300, and their legs look like columns. So his specialty was taking all this fat out. So he and I were talking one day, and he said, why don't we get together, and I'm taking it out. I'll take the good fat, we'll clean it, and the same people who are very obese also have painful joints.
Certainly, yeah.
So we've been doing that, and then taking it, injecting it into the joints, and for those patients, he's had wonderful results with those, and it just goes to show that you can take some bad and make some good out of it.
That's really remarkable, because it's almost as if by grand design, somewhere along the way, whoever created this great ant farm that we are looked at us and said, you're going to see this as a bad thing, but eventually this is going to be a good thing. So be patient.
That's
At
right.
some point, somebody at Emory University is going to come up with an idea to take the bad and make it good. We're talking with Dr. Michael Price. He's a regenerative orthopedic surgeon from the Roxbury Institute. You can learn more. They're over in Beverly Hills, theroxburyinstitute.com. And we're discussing the benefits of regenerative medicine and how human beings are slowly, with the assistance of doctors, being able to use their own body to help their own body. We're discussing knees and hips, as the doctor is a double board certified orthopedic surgeon and regenerative medicine. And we're going to take a break in just a little bit. And when we come back, what I'd really like to do, Dr. Price, is talk about the how many times a patient can come back and see you, some of the other applications that are maybe available, maybe not yet quite available, but as FDA and the boards start to take a look at medicine further on down the road, where this might be leading. And I'd like to talk a little bit about where you're from and how this all started. And again, Dr. Michael Price, double board certified in orthopedic surgery, regenerative medicine, graduated high school at the age of 16. I still find that incredibly remarkable. Went on to graduate with honors from both college and medical school at Georgia Tech and the Medical College of Georgia, respectively. He has also held the position of assistant professor at the Emory University School of Medicine in Atlanta, Georgia, and earned a formal accommodation for care and teaching as he performed at the Veterans Administration Hospital, where he got an opportunity to work a lot with things like STEM research and regenerative medicine. Lectured both domestically and internationally as an expert on sacroiliac spine disorders. We'll talk a bit about backs too in a little bit, and the use of these cell therapies. Currently practicing in Beverly Hills and Dubai. You travel?
I do some consulting via Skype from Dubai, and we're building, one of my partners is building an office there that should be open in September. We're going to go over and do the same work there.
Wonderful. Now, and in my hand, I'm holding your book, STEM's The Growing Revolution by Dr. Michael Price. If a patient wanted to get a hold of this book, they have to come to see you. This is something you give to your patients, correct?
I do give it to the patients, but it's also available on Amazon.
Available on Amazon.
Yes.
STEM's The Growing Revolution. We will come back in just a little bit after this break to talk with Dr. Michael Price, regenerative orthopedic surgeon. If you are having some aches and pains and some of those things that are facing the growing aging population. They're calling it the silver tsunami, or you know or have someone you love who could maybe benefit. You will want to catch this podcast again on our website at hometownstation.com, also via our YouTube channel. You are listening to AM 1220 KHTS, your hometown station. Again, find us on hometownstation.com. We'll be back after these messages.